Hi, this is Chrissy Thompson with playtalkandgrow.com. Today I want to talk to you about childhood apraxia of speech. I want to let you know what exactly is it, the treatment involved, and how you can help your child at home. Apraxia is a motor speech disorder where the messages from your brain to your mouth don't exactly go through correctly. It's not a muscle weakness problem, it's a problem where the children know what to say, but their brain is not quite connecting to those muscles in their mouth to move correctly. They may have trouble moving their lips, their tongue, their jaw, their cheeks to produce the sounds. They may be able to say some sounds or maybe not much at all in the beginning. So if your child is demonstrating some different behaviors with their mouth when they're trying to talk, like they may just open their mouth wide but nothing comes out, and nothing happens. They may only open wide when they say sounds, so they may say ba and get stuck. Or they may not be able to round their lips. They may talk with their lips really tight like this, and they talk like this because they can't motor plan to move their mouth to make all those sounds. So they have trouble with rounding sounds, of making oohs and ohs and wah. And they have trouble with those different sounds as we grade our jaw, because our jaw moves in these different levels. We start with it pretty closed at an E, which is like a level 1, and then you have an eh, where it opens just a little bit more, and then an ah, where it's a little bit more open, and an ah, where it's really big open. So your jaw is moving very fluidly, and when we talk, our tongue and jaw and cheeks move just constantly. It is not a single sound that we say at a time. It all becomes very fluid, and which creates fluent speech. So children with apraxia really struggle with the sequencing of those movements, of making those sounds into a fluent word. So in the beginning, usually when they're first starting to talk, maybe they're 1.5, 2, you might say, my child isn't talking at all. They can't make any sounds because they need to learn how to properly phonate, is what that's called, when you turn your voice on. They need to learn how to put their lips together to make that b sound, because their brain is saying those words, but it's not connecting properly with their mouth to make the sounds. We don't know the cause for apraxia. It has developmental in it, but it's not something they will grow out of. They will need support. They will need treatment from a trained speech therapist to improve and to progress in these sounds. You know, even though we think of it as a developmental disorder, because most children's disorders, they consider them developmental, they don't necessarily learn the sounds as we would expect a typical child. So they don't always start with their P's, B's, M's first. They could come out with an S first, or a sh sound, and you might be working on that for a while. The other characteristics of apraxia are that they don't say the word the exact same every time. It could change. So one day they could say horse and say it perfectly. The next day they go hot and they put a T in there. Or you say at one trial they get horse, and the next, right after that, they do a huh, and they can't get the S on it. So it changes constantly. Other characteristics are that they may have some sliding, or they have groping behavior, which we call, where they're trying to get that O, but it comes out like ha, and their mouth moves in these different movements because they're trying to get back to that O, but they can't motor plan their way and get their mouth to move in the right way. Other characteristics are that they can do really well with imitation. So if you say it first, they say it pretty well, but if they say it independently, it's very different and it's very unintelligible usually. So those are the different characteristics. And if you do have concerns about your child, if they're doing any of those things, if you're seeing them try to say words and they're stuck with their mouth open, they can't get it back closed, if they're not saying many sounds at all, apraxia isn't diagnosed until a child is at 3 years of age or older, but we can always have suspicions. So next up, we're going to talk about some treatment approaches. Okay, now I'm going to go over the treatment plan for a child with apraxia. I like to work intensively with children when either I suspect it's apraxia or I've diagnosed them with apraxia. I prefer at least 3 times a week. I know that most insurance companies don't cover that, and that may seem extreme to some. But early on in the process, when a child is between the ages of 2 and 5, The more intense we can get with our treatment, the more progress we will see and the faster the results come. Don't be discouraged. If you're not able to do 3 times a week, then you can do lots of things at home that I'm going to cover a little bit later in this video. But let's review a couple of the basic types of treatment approaches that I use for apraxia. The first is called PROMPT. PROMPT stands for Prompts for Restructuring Muscular Phonetic Targets. This is a method that has been used for a long time. I've level 1, level 2 prompt trained, and I've been using it for the last, I think, maybe 13 years. And I use it daily with all my kids. I even treat all of my children who have articulation disorders with PROMPT, because what it does is it's providing visual and tactile cueing to help them move their mouth in the way that it needs to move to create those sounds. So I might provide jaw support if they're sliding to help stabilize their jaw. I might provide a cheek and lip cue to help them round their lips if they're not able to round, or help them retract their lips if they can't retract. There's lingual cues that I'll give to help them get the proper tongue placement to produce a sound. I have found PROMPT to be extremely effective for my children with apraxia. So if you are heading down that road, you suspect your child has apraxia, you want to maybe ask those questions of that clinician. Have you worked with apraxia? Do you know PROMPT? I've read up on this, or I've heard another therapist talk about it, and it provides those really great kinesthetic, tactile cues that give that child the feedback they need to feel their muscles and to know how to move them. So it's really supportive, and I really do like using that. Another approach I've learned about recently is called dynamic, temporal, and tactile cueing. It's still kind of new to me, but it's known as DTTC, and it involves the actual movements of your tongue, your cheeks, your lips. So it goes a lot with PROMPT in my philosophy of knowing about PROMPT really extensively. So I've fit it in really nicely. The difference I have found with it is it has a big watch approach. So it's teaching the kids to watch you as you say it. It works on some simultaneous imitations. So you're cueing the child to watch me, let's say it together, more, and they say it with you. You use a slower rate and then you speed it back up. There's other visual cues. You can use tactile cues with DTTC. You kind of use all the cues possible, and you gradually pull each type of cue away to get that child to an independent level. The main difference, I think, with DTTC is that it really focuses on the fluid movement of speech. So you're not working on isolated sounds. You're working on simple syllables and words from the very beginning. You're very selective in the words you choose because you want to target the movement. So you choose words that all have oo, and you do the same thing with PROMPT. So you're working on the specific movements with PROMPT as you would with DTTC. So with PROMPT, we think about the mandible, your jaw moving. So we work on words that all have ah in them because you want to get the jaw to move and be stable. So you work on, up, on, out, things like that to try to get that jaw moving. And with DTTC, it's the same. So you would do sounds, you wanted it to work on rounding. So boom, go, move, those types of sounds to get all that rounding in. My biggest thing when it comes to treatment for apraxia is thinking about those sounds to get the movement that we're working on. Are we working on rounding? Are we working on how our jaw is stable? What's the goal? And then focus on the words and pick out the sounds and words you need to focus on that movement, rather than thinking about we have to work on B. It's more about how is their mouth moving, and I need to make them get that motor plan so they know how to open their jaw and close their jaw to finish that word. For example, like a word like cat. A lot of my apraxic children will say ka, and they get stuck because they can't motor plan that jaw to close to make that t sound. So that's what we work on. We work on all these words that go open and closed. Up to close, hat to close, mat to close. So I'm just working on that physical movement. So that's my big takeaway when it comes to treatment, is you need to find a clinician who is aware about apraxia and who can think about it in that motor movement. How are we going to teach that child to make the movement, not necessarily the sound? Because like I said in the diagnosis, they don't always develop their sounds in the same way. So if the therapist isn't familiar with apraxia, doesn't think about it from a movement perspective, if they're trying to work on isolated sounds, if they're taking more of a phonetic approach, which means that they're focusing on, okay, they drop off the final consonants, so we're just going to work on them producing these final consonants. That's a very traditional approach to articulation therapy, and it doesn't exactly, in my opinion, it's not as effective for apraxia because it's about the movement. It's not necessarily about the sound. So I hope that makes sense to you. As always, if you have specific questions about treatment, I am happy to answer them. Please message me. Look me up on my website as well, playtalkandgrow.com. I have one more thing to go over with you guys, and that is your takeaways. What are you going to be able to do at home to help your child? Okay, let's talk about what you can do at home when you're working with your child. If you either suspect that they have apraxia or you do have a diagnosis of apraxia, the treatment and what you're going to do at home will be about the same. You can provide them with visual cues, and by that I mean teaching them to look at your face as you're saying something. They aren't going to do this all the time, every day, but when you have those moments where they're really paying attention to you, where they're really focusing, they're going to want to look at your face because they're starting to realize it's going to make it easier for them. So if you cue them with, watch me, and you say the word or the sounds slower and with very big emphasis on that sound. So you're going to do things like mo for more. Because remember, we're thinking about the movement, not so much the specific sound. So if they want more of a cracker and you want them to say more, you can show them and say, hey, watch me, mo, mo. You're going to simplify words because when children have apraxia, it's all about the sequencing of those sounds. So to say a complete word is much harder for them in the beginning than to say a single sound or two sounds. And they might be able to imitate you. If they're watching you and they're imitating, then you're doing really, really well. So maybe you're playing. Maybe you have a puzzle at home and you're trying to get them to do the animals. Animal names, animal sounds are kind of a big jump, but when a child has apraxia, especially if they're not even phonating. So when I think about a child who has apraxia and I go through my prompt training and I work on phonation first. So are they able to turn their voice on and off? If they're not, if your child isn't producing any sounds, the first thing you're going to start with is producing sound. Whatever sound they make, you make it too. So if they go ee all the time, then you go ee and you turn it to a word. Yay! Ee, yay! And you say it when they say it. If they just run around going because all they can do is get their mouth open wide. So they're phonating, they're making sounds, but they are stuck with it open. So you might work on up and get them to close and get them to point up. You could play bubbles with this. You could work on picking them up and playing an up-down game. If they're small, you can work on flipping them over and bringing them back up and you get up. You want to work on that visual, getting them to watch you when they can. So you work on pausing. Watch me, and then you pause, you say up, and you get them to try to do it too, and then you do the action. That's one of the first things I think about is I think about how they're phonating. I think about how their jaw is moving next. Are they opening and closing appropriately? If not, we need to work on that jaw. We need to work on open sounds. So sounds and sounds, because vowels are often harder for children with apraxia because the vowel is what's connecting all those consonants and our vowels are what makes our jaw move. All of our consonants are pretty much stuck with our tongue and our lips because that's how we make those sounds. They're lingual involved. But that jaw, once it starts moving, they lose control of all those lingual sounds. So it's a lot about the vowels. Maybe you need to work on some rounding. So you're working on O's and go, right? That could be another option too. It all goes to the movement, so you sort of have to think about it in a bit of a different way. So you have a toy, maybe your child, you're just working on phonating. So you have this toy, and that is something to know with children with apraxia. If it's just apraxia, they don't have a different language disorder. Sometimes we're unsure if they have an expressive language delay because we can't hear their words. So we don't know if they're building those sentences in their head yet until they start talking. So we sort of treat it the same way. We're going to work on vocabulary. We're also going to work on those sounds. So your child isn't quite talking yet or only has a few words. You've got a puzzle with animal sounds. You might pick out the sounds, right? We like to start with sounds. So moo for cow, but say both words because you don't know what they might be able to say. That's the thing with apraxia. Sometimes they surprise you and they come out with cow when you were just trying to work on moo. So stick with the watch me, give them the visual, and then you play with the different animal sounds for horse, neigh, or even just a, ah, ah, ah. And if they're just starting out, you're working on that phonation piece, ooh, ooh, ah. Any sound they make, imitate it back because they're knowing, oh, hey, I made a sound and she heard me, right? Other good ones for when they're just starting to learn how to phonate are bubbles, right? Because that's super exciting. Play-Doh I have found to be really effective for my children with apraxia. Something about getting those hands moving, they're squishing that Play-Doh, they're getting that sensory piece. Sometimes it makes them start talking. I've also known a little bit of frustration goes a long way for children with apraxia. So if they're starting to get a little frustrated, sometimes that sound will burst out of them. You don't want to make your child mad, but giving them something and you withholding it just long enough to where they really might want to say that sound. We never want to withhold or demand speech before giving something. That is frustrating for a child and sets them way back. They don't want to try again if they know you're not going to give it to them. So don't withhold for them to say something. Model, model, model. If they say it, celebrate it. If they don't, move on, because there's no point in torturing your child or yourself. You will just be frustrated and they will be upset and it's not worth it. We want speech to be positive and happy and joyful, and we want them to know that when they use their sounds, whatever sound it is, it's amazing and they achieve something great today. So honor that with your child as you're playing. Something else to think about while you're working on this at home is, and another part of the visual, is using mirrors. I often use a mirror with my children with apraxia because they do better when they can see their face and see what their mouth is doing. So I like to kind of be side by side with them in the mirror so that they can watch me go up and then they can do it too, and they can see their mouth open up and close and how it closes. This doesn't always go as, takes as long. They don't want to do it for very often, but maybe you could get those like dry erase markers and you could draw faces or circles on the mirror in your bathroom and put your child's face in it next to yours. And maybe that would make it a little fun to keep them in that mirror a little bit longer to get some practice in of how to move their mouth, because we're thinking about movement, not so much about sounds. So you could even be starting out with just movement, just going, ooh, oh, can you round your lips? Give them that verbal feedback. Give them those verbal cues too. You're giving them visual cues. You want to tell them what to do. Oh, look, can you make your lips go like this? Ooh, can you make them go round? Can you smile like mommy? Smile. Can you open your mouth? Ah. Tell them what you're wanting them to do in addition to showing them. So use mirrors. Use your visual cues of watch me say it. Use your verbal cues of telling them where to put their tongue, what to do with their lips. Open your mouth, make it bigger, ah, things like that. Those are really helpful for children with apraxia. The more input we give them through visuals and verbals and even tactile by giving them a little touch your lips, try to do that. Tactile cues are also very effective. But also with all these cues, read your child. If your child's getting frustrated, if your child is refusing, if they're pulling back, watch their body language, because you need to let up if they don't want to do it anymore. You don't want to push a child with apraxia too far because they get very frustrated because they have awareness. This isn't a language disorder. This is a motor speech disorder. They know what's going on. They know they can't say the sound the way you are. That's why a lot of times they don't try, because they know it's hard. I like to tell my students, I recognize this. This is hard work. You are working so hard. No matter how young they are, it's good to validate their feelings. They want to know that they're heard and that you understand. So tell them how they feel. Like, I know this is hard. Let's take a break. Maybe we'll do this later. And try again another time. Okay? So as you're playing, play with them. You use the vocabulary. You describe things. Simplify words. If it's a big word like computer, maybe just call it come, or beep, beep, make a sound. If they can't say ambulance, do the noise. Woo, wee, woo, wee. And you see how that's working? I'm going round, woo, to E, retracted, back here. And that is a motor plan. You know, we don't think about it this way because we are talking and we haven't thought a lot about it. But for our kids with apraxia, it's very hard for them to move their mouth the way their brain is telling them. So they need help with that. As much as you can do, support them. Speak a little bit slower. If you're a fast talker like I can be, I have to slow my voice down. But you also want to show them the normal rate to say it too. So if we slow it way down, we want to speed it back up a little bit too so they can hear it normal. So if you do more, you say, yeah, more, and you say it faster again. I hope these tips are helpful, and if you need clarification or you want to know more, please reach out to me on my website at playtalkandgrow.com. I am happy to answer messages and emails, and I want to just share with parents better ways of how to help their children at home and how to know when you need therapy and what that's going to look like. So I hope you guys all have a great day and play with your kids and have a lot of fun. Thanks.